Hello, Watch fam. I'm David Boucher, the Real-Time Show's resident provocateur, and I'm back for another episode of Chronopolis Radio. And today, I am joined by James Mulvale from Fair. James, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, David. You?
Doing fantastic. It's always a great time to talk watches, and always a great time talking watches with a brand that, if you don't mind me saying, is a little bit out there, like Fair. So Fair has its place in the watch industry. It's been around for quite some time now, but let's assume that some people listening to this episode may not have heard of Fair. So tell us how the brand got started, and tell us what you do for the brand as well, please.
Sure. So for those who don't know, as you say, we've been around a little while. Fair turned 10 years old end of last year. So we were started in 2015. British brand, as you can tell from my accent. And basically, our focus is, in a nutshell, we draw inspiration right from what we call the halcyon era of watchmaking. So you're thinking like 1950s all the way through, I guess, to the 70s and just before the quartz crisis. But our difference is, we're not a brand that does vintage reissues or anything like that. That's not our bag. What we do is we then reinterpret a lot of classic complications and genres and elements through the use of modern uses of color, of material, of texture. I mean, basically, we're always trying to sort of subvert the genre of whatever it is we're doing in a way that makes people go, I've not seen, a watch like that before in this space, whether that's a simple three-hander or a diver or a chronograph. We want people to instantly recognize it as one of ours and not sort of one of the pack, if you like. And so what I do for Fairer, I mean, it's a little bit of everything, but broadly speaking, it's the marketing and front of house. So I write all our copy for the website, put the product launches together. I do the emails, the social media, and of course I do shows like Chronopolis. So you can see me at, well, there's I think about 12 or so shows we're doing around the world this year. So if you're at any one of those, it'd be great to see people. And yeah, you'll be able to come and have a chat with me.
So I want to come back on those the show attendance, but you also mentioned product. If you are listening to this episode and you've never seen a Fair watch, I do encourage you to do so, because one thing James said was the use of color is predominant in the watches. That's what I always associate Fair with. And I was doing a little bit of research just to make sure I was fresh on what you've been doing before this interview. And actually, the brand's been on a little bit of a tear recently. So can you walk us through some of the most recent releases, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess let's go back in reverse order, shall we? So from the stuff we've just launched, and then I'll sort of walk back just the past sort of 2 or 3 releases. So a few weeks ago we launched our 35mm cushion case watches, which basically a few years ago now we launched our 38.5mm cushion case range, and they've done phenomenally well for us. Funnily enough, they're quite dressy, and perhaps a little more traditional in terms of the color than some of our other models. And they did phenomenally well. I think because there is not that much in the cushion case space, or the range, like in general, it's not something that many people are doing. And so because they were so successful, we decided to do a smaller size for those who prefer it. Maybe you want something a little closer to sort of the very early vintage watches that were commonplace in sort of, I guess, the 20s through to the 40s. And also it gave us a chance to reinvent the cushion genre for us in terms of using different dial layout and design. So for these we use, well, there's 2 models available. There's the teal Belzoni and the sort of raspberry pink Furneaux, and they use a dial manufacturing technique that we've become very keen on, and it's a multi-layer technique where you take your dial blank and you press the texture, a unique texture, onto it. So on the one, it's like a heavily sort of textured sunburst, and the other, I'm not quite sure what to call it really, but it's a very unique sort of almost like uh well, it's sort of a crinkled texture of ridges and furrows. And then what you do is you spin the dials once they're textured, and you paint them and with multiple layers, and then that creates a gradient, so you get that sort of almost fume effect, as the sort of centrifugal force pushes the paint to the edge, so it gets darker on the outside. And then we coat the whole thing in a clear lacquer that is polished to a mirror shine. So what you end up with is this very cool sort of, it's not 3D because the surface is mirror polished, but the texture is tracked underneath. So it gives the color and texture a wonderful depth. And it creates sort of this strange paradox where, like I said, there's a texture that's clearly visible and obvious, but the actual surface is smooth. I mean, I liken it to those sort of people who do like resin art, and they make dioramas and then coat the whole thing in resin. Because yeah, it's sort of like that on a micro scale, but it's really stunning, really captivating. And yeah, those have gone down very well because they're nice and bold, and like you said, colors what we're known for. And so when you're doing things like a Raspberry King watch with a textured sort of pattern dial, I think people take notice. And then before that, we launched our next generation of world timers. Now these came back. When did we launch these again? 2024, I think. We did the sort of Series 2 World Timer. And yeah, again, these are probably one of our most popular collections, simply because, Swiss made World Timers aren't easy to find at our price point. We're £1,525 for the plain steel model. And yeah, it offers something that people can't really get hold of. There's a number of different colors to choose from. So this year we introduced a nice rich burgundy dial model called the Thorn. And we also have a sort of pine green fox. And though it's sold out at the moment, there's my favorite, which is the dark blue dial Rocher, which also has a fully luminous city bezel, which is really cool. I mean, I'm a Luna junkie, so that really appeals to me. And again, like these use, a variety of textures and techniques. So you've got that city bezel, you've got a similarly sort of a textured gear shade to the main dial that's lacquered. You've got a printed rotating 24-hour globe disc in the middle. There's Lumicast battens. The case as well has 3 different types of finishing. So it's brushed, it's polished, and it's got a cut in along the flanks that is micro bead blasted. So there's a lot going on with that. And yet it's really easy to read. And so a lot of people like that blend of, putting what is often quite a busy complication into a watch. And also making the watch, it's perfectly legible for just telling the time daily. So you've got a nice blend there, I think, between all the different sort of the sophistication and the functionality. So again, those have done very well. This year we introduced the Fox and Thorn we did in gold as well, so gold PVD. And PVD is really great because it's obviously you get the luster of gold, but it's much more durable than traditional gold plating. And it just transforms the colors. If you go on our site and you compare the plain steel Thorn or the plain steel Fox to the gold versions, it's funny how such a simple change can, like I say, just transform the aesthetic. And the gold versions have done very well and both sold out. So, we will be bringing those back. Probably, I think, towards the end of the year, we'll be able to restock those. And then, well, what else to talk about from us? I mean, I suppose let's go and look a bit at the sportier side of it, actually, with one of my favorite collections, which, I mean, we launched it August last year, but like I said, I'm really keen on this, and this is our Integra integrated sports watch. So, I mean, I've heard it said like sort of last year, it was the trend of last year, right? Integrated sports watches. And that I think is certainly true, but we don't ever sort of follow trends ourselves as a brand. We march to the beat of our own drum, and we had this in development for a couple of years actually. And the reasoning is that we feel that integrated sports watches, far from being a fad, they're actually just a key part of sort of a genre, right, within a catalog. They're not something just to sort of stand as an oddity, but they can be a core pillar of a collection. I mean, you've seen, throughout, you look at popular watches, from mainstream brands, and you see, many have had sort of integrated watches as flagship collections. Um, and so we've created our own, like I say, called the Integra, and it comes in 4 dial options at the moment. So we've got a mother of pearl, which is a lovely monochrome mother of pearl. So the iridescence is very subtle. So from a distance, it almost just looks like a regular white dial, but you get it up close, and like I say, it starts to pearlesce, and then it's something to, you sort of got to see in the light, like it really transforms it, and it looks absolutely stunning. And I think that's been the most popular. And we also do a malachite version. So the malachite stone, which is again very striking. And there's also a navy blue and a salmon copper. And the navy blue's the one I have. But and it's just classic, right? They're classic colors, really well suited, and the watch itself, it took so long because we wanted to make sure that case and bracelet were perfect, because we didn't want to go the Gerald Genta route of very angular, because we felt that I'd sort of been done to death. And again, going back to, we march to the beat of our own drum. We're not here to follow trends or fads. We wanted it to be distinct, completely original. So we worked on a slightly more curved design that's still sporty, or very, it's very versatile. There's lots of polished chamfers and edges to it, along with the brush textures. And so it sort of is a bit of a go anywhere, do anything piece. But it wears very well on the wrist. It's a 38.5 mil diameter. And the thickness is, let me remind myself, just
So
over 10 millimeters.
yeah, I've got it in front of me. It's 10.3 millimeters. Yep.
Yeah.
And
So it's,
credit to you. Sorry, I'll just jump in. I'm looking at this
yeah,
as you're
sure.
talking. If you're listening to this, please do check that one out, because, as James was saying, the integrated bracelet watch, there's a lot of them. You look at them and you say, okay, you guys are taking this feature, or I know what you were inspired by here. But I say this completely sincerely. I'm looking at it now and you're like, okay, it's an integrated bracelet watch, but it looks like its own thing. And it's got the
Mm,
really fun, fair colors, the fun typography. And credit to you, you used an SW300, which is the
mm,
2892, instead of the SW200, which is the 2824 derivative. So adds to the thickness. And for me, it's just
mm.
a nice change from all of the SW200 ETA 2824. So credit to you
Yeah,
guys
exactly.
for going that route.
Oh, cheers. I mean, I think it's probably like, in some ways, it's one of our most well-spec'd watches, because, like you say, it's got the SW300. It's the top grade one as well. It's really thin. It's got a screw-down crown and 100 meters water resistance. And the newest X2 Super Luminova as well. So that's the newest and brightest. Um, and yeah, it sort of ticks off, as a watch enthusiast myself, I think it ticks off pretty much every box, right, in terms of what you look for in a sports watch. The bracelet also has pull out on the fly micro adjustment. Comes with a complimentary rubber strap. Oh, and on the movement as well, the other thing you've got is a fully circular rotor at the back. So instead of the usual semicircle, the rotor actually just is a complete circle, which is quite hard to do because you need to obviously weight the one end still so it functions as a rotor. Um, but it's another unusual thing. I genuinely can't recall anyone else doing the fully circular rotor. I mean, I'm sure there must be one, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. So again, it's just ways, we're trying to sort of we're doing our own thing. We're not producing sort of something that you're going to say, oh yes, it's just like this other watch, isn't it? And yeah, it's something that the Integras are a collection that I'm very proud of, that we're able to pull together, because I think it's sort of they're just something that I think we've really nailed the design. If I do say so myself.
No, I agree. I completely sincerely, like I go through a lot of these interviews, and obviously I see a lot of nice watches, but I think you were one of the first in a while, James, to make me think, okay, I might have to look into getting one. Please, if you're listening, do go check out the Integra. It's a good
Well,
looking piece.
yeah. So like I said, I've got the blue, and to be honest, I've previous to this, right, years gone by, I've never been into integrated watches, but we were working on this, and it's coming along in development. And like I say, went through a lot of stages, and it changed quite a bit along the way. And yeah, we got to sort of the finished product, and I was like, no, this is a really cool watch. I need one for myself, and I'm quite restrained. I think this is the first new watch I've bought in, maybe a whole 12 months, which, let's be honest, for us watch guys,
It's a long time.
that's eons, right?
It is. It is. It is. So let's now
So yeah,
jump to the show. So if
yeah,
you're listening, please go check out the fair website. But there are chances, which we're going to get into now, to actually see them and try them on in person. So what I want to know, James, please, is you said you're going to like 12 shows this year.
yeah.
So I just want to understand, for a smaller brand like Fair, I have to imagine that we hear about independent watch companies having quite slim margins. And as you said
Mm.
earlier, you wear a lot of hats. So,
Mhm.
what is the calculus that goes into attending these shows? And what made you choose Chronopolis specifically? Because during this week, well, it's actually next week from the time we're recording
Yeah.
now, but there's several options you could have gone to. So, I mean, what's the calculus for just attending shows generally, and what drew you to Chronopolis specifically?
This is an interesting question. I mean, so basically, so we ship around the world, so we have a global audience, and therefore we're always keen to look at new locations for us to go to. At the moment, our largest market is the US. So traditionally, we do quite a few shows there. So the Wind Up. So I did Wind at Dallas a few weeks ago. We'll be doing New York later this year. And I'm also signed up to do Intersect LA. So I think those are the three US shows. We'll also be doing the Toronto Timepiece show. I mean, it's tricky. I mean, because obviously there's so many shows these days um, to go to, and it's just trying to, I guess, find the time, make the judgment. It's not as simple as it used to be, right? But for us, it's partly, where do we think is a strong market, either existing or potential. Um, and then I think it sort of comes down to the show itself. I mean, the guys at Wind Up, of course, have been doing this a long time now. I think again, they just turned 10 last year, didn't they? Um, and so they have it down to a fine art in terms of the organization and the setup. Um, and often, we're looking for, I guess, similar things, what and the vibe that then that creates. So wind ups have this great casual sort of atmosphere where you get all sorts of enthusiasts from all over, and we all have a great chat about watches. And other people, and other places, I'll shout it. Like I say, there's Jason who does Toronto Timepiece. He's done an excellent job. And then Katja, with British Watchmakers Day. And they're all places where you get such a great buzz because there's so many people coming who are all genuine enthusiasts. They're all, um, passionate about the subject, and you can really get stuck into talking about the products. It's not just a casual showcase. It's actually a meeting of enthusiasts, which I think is really good. Um, And so we felt that Chronopolis, is kind of, I think it's a similar thing, right? Having spoken to the guys behind it, um, you know, they've got a similar passion. They're really giving it their all, which I think is key. It's not, it's more than just an excuse to do something because of the time of year. It's no, we have an opportunity here to again bring enthusiasts and brands together in a way that not every show does. I think. And yeah, and on that, like we're alongside some great other independent brands. And so I think with all that, it gives what's on offer to the visitor is a really nice, compelling, selection there and a great reason to go because you've got a great lineup at a lovely venue, and it's not some, it's not stuffy, it's not too formal. It's just somewhere people can come to and enjoy a shared passion. And I think that is kind of the key thing that any successful show has, right? No matter who's organizing it and where in the world it is. It it's the shared traits of all these various things, and so that's what we're trying to look for. And we in the industry, right? There's lots of intercommunication between brands and stuff, and so we're also looking. If someone comes and says, "Oh, this was a great show. I had a great time." We listen to that, and there's a couple of shows we're trying this year because our peers in the industry have come and said, "Look, you should have come next year," and so we are. So we're doing a few that we've heard are great. There's the show in Prague at the end of the year. I think that's late November. We'll be doing that again because we've heard great things. Same for one at the end of May. I think it is in Warsaw. These are new markets. We've never shown at them, but we hear great things, and we want to explore them basically.
Very good. So I presume that if someone wants to come try on a Fair watch, they can do so at Chronopolis. Will you be there with watches to try on?
I will be there. I
There you go.
have them all packed up, ready to go. We'll have a sample unit of pretty much everything on display. And if you don't see it, just ask me. I've probably got it tucked out the back. But yeah, people, yeah, as always, we're very easygoing. The watches are all there; they're all laid out, ready for you to just pick up and try on. So, yeah, by all means, please stop by, guys. Just feel free, try them on, ask questions. Just I'll be there to just chat about watches. Preferably our watches, but any sort of thing you want to talk about with many questions about how we design them, the specifications, anything like that. Just ask away. I'll be only too happy to answer.
It's okay, James. If you find another watch attractive, I won't tell on you. It's okay. Well, we're just there because we all just like watches. But I will say, I've carried on looking at the Integra over the course of this interview, and I think you're going to help me try one of those on for sure at the show.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll be having them ready and be like, choose your favorite. Go on.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time, and thank you, of course, the listeners of the Real
Pleasure.
Time Show for tuning in to another episode of Chronopolis Radio with the Real Time Show. As James said, he will be there. I will be there as well. So we look forward to seeing you if you can make it to Geneva. And in the meantime, we want to always, as always, close by saying, stay safe, keep on ticking, and thank you so much for your time. Bye, everyone.